Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel, Linley Shares Research. In this new episode, we are diving into how to turn your conversations with ChatGPT into something more interesting, like a podcast. You'll learn how to export your conversation history using the ChatGPT chat box at chatgpt.openai.com and turn it into a tangible text file. From there, you can perform textual analysis, and based on that, you can explore all kinds of creative use cases. One use case we'll explore today is how to turn your ChatGPT conversation into a podcast using a tool called NotebookLM. The key idea here is your conversation with ChatGPT could be a valuable source of data. It may contain patterns, insights, and thought provoking ideas that you can summarize, reflect on, or even publish as a blog, podcast, or other media. So, what are the goals of today's episode? First, if you have a lot of conversation with ChatGPT, how do you save and export them to your local computer? Second, how do you extract and process that data for analysis, whether summarizing, focusing on a specific topic, or combining related information? Third, we'll show you how to export your ChatGPT data into a usable format, specifically from the JSON file you receive to a textual file. Finally, we'll use that data in one specific way to create a podcast using NotebookLM. Let's get started. First, I want to show you what my ChatGPT interface looks like. This is one specific conversation. Here, I've been using ChatGPT as my reading companion. I've been reading Russell's The Conquest of Happiness. It's a classic book with a lot of depth. Whenever I have question about a quote or an idea, I just ask ChatGPT. For example, I asked summarize the different chapter, and I asked several specific questions like, can you explain the following sentence to me? Sometimes, can you expand it and make it more relatable and applicable to real life? I paste the quote I have from the book, and ChatGPT generates an explanation. Plus, as a request, a concise summary and often a reflection on how it applies to life. This becomes a conversation, a meaningful exchange that could serve as data. Now imagine that conversation becomes the source for a podcast episode about the philosophy of life and happiness. That's what I did. Of course, you could copy and paste the entire conversation manually, like copy there, and there's other copy here. So that's a very manual way of doing this, very time consuming. So let's take a more efficient approach by exporting the data. So here is how you can do that. Go to your ChatGPT account, click your name or account icon, go to settings, click on data controls, then click export data. Once you request the export, OpenAI will send you an email. I received mine in about 10 minutes. It includes a downloadable zip file. When I unzip the file, and I'll show you just a second in my download folder, it is like this. I find a JSON file that contains all my conversation history, not just the one I showed you, but everything. If you're familiar with JSON file, you'll know they are made of key value pairs, like a dictionary. So we'll need a way to parse this file and extract the actual messages. into a readable format. To do that, I wrote a simple Python script. The script is called readpython.py here. And I ran it in Visual Studio Code, a popular IDE for coding. If you haven't already, download VS Code and make sure Python is installed. In the script, we imported the JSON module. We defined a function to open and extract relevant messages from the JSON file. And we also focused on extracting the parts. That's the section of the file that include your messages from ChatGPT. Below this video, I'll share the raw code here. You can copy it and adjust the file path to match your downloadable file. So once we run the script, we can see the extracted conversation. So the conversation data here. Let's run it, and you can see it's a bit messy at first. There's extra code, metadata, and formatting we don't need, so we'll refine it. A lot of different data, and then let's focus on one conversation, which is the first one. And then you'll see it's similar format, but now we found the useful text parts, which is ChatGPT's replies. Then now we have two options. The first option is maybe you can copy paste from here, but that's not efficient, right? So we created another function that's aiming to extract the parts, and we'll run that again and see the output is like this now. So you can either just copy from the output here, or you can use the following code to automatically save the output as a file here. So the output file is extracted content, and once we run this, it will save it to this text file that we can finally find here. Now we've achieved our first three goals. Exported ChatGPT data, parse the JSON file, and which you can directly use the file I shared, the raw code I shared below this video, and adjust as needed. And now we also have this extracted readable conversation textual data, a TXT file. Now for the final step and this specific use case, turning the text into a podcast using NotebookLM. If you've never used NotebookLM before, it's a large language model powered tool developed by Google. It helps you summarize, analyze, and explore content from documents or articles online using their URL. In my case, I uploaded the TXT file we just created, the one containing my conversation about the book. Although our conversation is in Chinese, since my account here is a English by default language, it automatically translated all the TXT Chinese into English. And then I selected a option, the studio, under the studio here, and turn it into a podcast. Within minutes, NotebookLM generated a podcast based on the conversation, the text file I sent. I've linked the podcast in the video description if you'd like to check it out. And that's our technical walkthrough for today. Whether you want to reuse your ChatGPT conversation as data, whether you want to perform textual analysis, summarize or reflect, or generate a creative output like blogs and podcasts, you can follow these steps to export, to parse, and reuse your ChatGPT conversations. I hope you will try to try out NotebookLM. It's a great tool, especially if you enjoy listening and learning through audio. Of course, there's much more you can do with your ChatGPT history, like deeper analysis, topic modeling, or building dataset. Stay tuned if this topic interests you. This channel focuses on both technical and research-oriented content, exploring practical tools and philosophical ideas sometimes that help us make sense of our professional and daily lives. If there's a topic you'd like to see next, feel free to comment below. Thanks so much for your time and attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Let's keep exploring how to make life and work more efficient, meaningful, and just a little more interesting.